You asked for it, so here it is. I took some requests as well, so keep an eye out for those. It appears you guys love hearing about people scarier than Hannibal Lecter, so get ready because today we have yet another top 10 list of real people scarier than Hannibal Lecter. So part 2, here we go. I'm your host, Rachel Fisher, and get ready for some more nightmares. And yes, I know I'm using headphones again because I lost my other one, so whatever. Love it or hate it, I don't care. Number 10, H.H. Holmes. I've talked about H.H. Holmes before on this channel. Can you guess which video it is in the comments? Let me know. But some of you requested that he be in part 2, and considering his likeness to Hannibal, I completely agree that he has to be. Like the fictional killer, Holmes was handsome, charming, and could woo any woman who met his eye. Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, again, no relation to Sherlock Holmes, though he changed his name out of admiration. You know, he should have said Lecter because he's so close to him. Anyways, like Hannibal and Sherlock Holmes for that matter though, he was a genius. He finished school at the age of 16 and earned his doctorate in medicine by the age of 23. In fact, as a child, he showed an interest in medicine by practicing surgery on animals, and we all know what happens after that. Additionally, in medical school, he got into the habit of stealing corpses and conning insurance claims. Yeah, cool guy. But he isn't famous for any medical marvels, oh no. By the late 1800s in Chicago, Holmes eventually earned enough money to construct a massive labyrinth within a hotel of sorts. It had stores on the bottom and apartments above, each level booby-trapped with trapdoors, disorienting mazes, and chutes that would drop victims into the basement where vats of acid, very Joker-like, which was used for decaying corpses, and a crematorium lay where he would, you know, get rid of the evidence. Holmes' House of Horrors would soon be infamously known as the Castle. Like his old medical school days, he also took out insurance policies on his victims to fund his macabre endeavors. Historians still debate how many people he killed exactly, but currently it sits around 200. Number 9, the killer actor. Though many of us carry some heavy torches for actors we've seen on TV, now imagine that actor used their talents for evil, not entertainment. Ramiro Artieda was a Bolivian sex criminal responsible for the deaths of over 8 women between 1937 and 1939. In traditional serial killer fashion, all of them had an uncanny resemblance to each other. The reason he's called the killer actor is due to the fact that he used the acting training he received while studying drama in the US to lure his victims. He created characters and drew women to secluded areas where he would perform his crimes. He played a monk, a film producer, and a professor. Before he left for the States, however, he was also accused of killing his younger brother, Luis, when his family estate passed solely to him, and his fiancée left him due to the allegations, so he was a bit heartbroken. So when he returned from Bolivia, his goal was to eradicate anyone who looked anything like his ex-fiancée. Rough. Thankfully, his crimes were cut short, and he was sentenced to death in July 1939. Number 8, William Devon Howel. Some people have cool names for their cars like the Batmobile or Knight Rider. Howell thought it'd be cool to name his 1985 Ford Econoline the Mobile, and that just about says it all right there. William was already in jail for the murder of Nilsa Arizmendia after she was last seen getting into his van in 2003. Blood was found in his mobile, but she wasn't the only one of his victims. Police discovered 3 bodies on a desolate stretch of land in 2007, all linked to Howell. But his body count rose in 2015 when 4 more bodies were discovered behind a Connecticut strip mall on the same stretch of land where they found the 3 others. Police linked them to Howell after hearing his confession to another cellmate about his garden, which is where he buried his victims. He was also notorious for sleeping next to his victims while they decomposed in his car. Though he doesn't sound anywhere close to a genius like the infamous Hannibal, there's something so disturbing about these lonely murders committed by a drifter in Connecticut. What was it about him that made these women trust him enough to follow him into his car? Number 7, the Great Blood Sorceress. First off, why do we give such epic names to murders like Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac Killer? Like what? Now the Great Blood Sorceress? Like damn. It seems like we're celebrating these people, but we're not. We're not. I don't know. Hi, my name is Rachel Fisher and welcome to my existential crisis. Anyways, Magdalena Solis, aka the Great Blood Sorceress, was a religious fanatic turned serial killer who plagued the minds and bodies of Mexico. She joined the Santos and Cayetano Hernandez cult in 1963 and started having warped visions of grandeur and a marked sexual perversion, which led her to do a lot of stuff I can't say out loud because YouTube gets mad. With the cult, they moved to Yerba Buena, which had a population of around 50 people, all poor and starving, and convinced them they were gods. While the brothers knew it was fake, Magdalena went hardcore method in her role as the priestess and believed the whole thing. She was responsible for 8 confirmed murders, though possible 15, through sacrifices where the victims were tortured and beaten. Afterwards, she removed their hearts and drank their blood. Followers of her group claimed that she was a reincarnation of an Aztec goddess. Sure, I mean, whatever makes you sleep better at night, man. Number 6, Israel Keyes. Israel Keyes was a former soldier who was honorably discharged from the US Army in 2011. But little did they know, Keyes was ready to fulfill a plan he had been waiting for years. Once discharged, he turned his cell phone off, flew to Chicago, and then drove a rental to Vermont. He paid cash for all expenses to avoid leading anyone to his pit, just one of the pits he had planted all over the country. He had buried supplies in a specific area back in 2009, and once there, he picked a random couple and meticulously carried out his dark deed. He killed them. His next victim was Samantha Koenig in Alaska in 2012 and delighted in taunting the family with texts and photographs and debit withdrawals, maintaining the illusion that she was still alive. Keyes followed no pattern, killed at random, which made it incredibly difficult to catch him, but eventually he was caught in Texas, confessed to 8 murders, though police suspect there were definitely more. They just can't find them. Those attacks may appear random, they were heavily thought out and eerily methodical. It's almost as if he planned his own arrest. He is a horror movie killer brought to life. Never mind Hannibal Lecter. Number 5, Vickie Dawn Jackson. Between December 2000 and February 2001, Vickie Dawn Jackson went on a spree, killing as many as 20 people and attempting to kill 5 more. But outside her small town, you have never heard of her. Similar to Lecter, Jackie worked in the medical field of sorts as a nurse in the small town in North Texas. The hospital she worked at suddenly underwent a plague of respiratory-related deaths, but since all the patients who died were elderly, well, no one thought anything of it. No one became suspicious until several vials of methacurium chloride, a drug used to temporarily paralyze a patient's ability to breathe, had disappeared. Investigators narrowed in on Jackson after colleagues recalled that she'd often say she'd take care of unruly patients. Then realizing after that Vickie was the last one seen when the patients died, 2 and 2 together. It still took until July 2002 for Jackson to be arrested, even after they found a syringe with traces of the drugs in her garbage. But when she finally went to court, she didn't put up a fuss and admitted to all the crimes. She continues to serve her life sentence, and good riddance. The pain of losing a loved one is hard enough, and the fact that Vickie took so many from their families while in her care is painful to wrap your head around. Number 4, the monster of Ecatepec, Juan Carlos. It's 2018 and a string of murders plague Mexico City, shocking the country. Juan Carlos became known as the monster of Ecatepec for killing over 20 women in the quiet suburb. But he wasn't alone. His wife Patricia was used as a lure to bring his victims back to their house of horrors. The couple would say that Patricia sold cheap clothes, and that was enough to lure the women in. They didn't discriminate against who they took, even claiming young mothers. The 2 were caught and arrested when authorities found them pushing around a stroller filled with body parts, not a baby. Carlos has even warned police that should he ever be freed, the first thing he will do is kill again. And I hope they listen to him and don't just go, oh, never mind, we'll just release you. Honestly, one of the most chilling ones, and we're not even at the top 3 yet, so get ready! Speaking of which, if you like this list, you know what to do and let us know. Number 3, Fred and Rosemary West. I've got to thank commenter Robert Clark for providing some more leads, including these next 2, so 3 and 2. Fred and Rose West are yet another terrible duo, more terrifying than the singular monster that was Hannibal Lecter. Fred and Rose West might have been a charming couple, a delight at parties, but like most of our most charming killers, it was the perfect facade. The Wests and at least 9 young women, including their own daughters between 1973 to 1987. The majority of the murders took place in their very home. To cover up the frequent burials of their victims, Fred would cover it up by constantly doing home improvements and garden work. The victims who weren't a part of their family would be lured to the house under claim that the family was simply looking for nannies. When they were finally caught, Fred committed suicide while waiting in prison, and Rosemary is still living out her sentence in jail, and thank goodness. Ugh. I can't even go into detail because YouTube gets mad, but what they did was just absolutely horrific. Just a combination of everything horrible. Like everything you could imagine, they did. Yeah. Number 2, the Hammersmith nude killer. So thanks also to that commenter. You thought Jack the Ripper was bad? Well, welcome to Hammersmith nude killer. The most terrifying part is that we still don't know who the killer is, just like Jack the Ripper. It was a peaceful morning in London, 1964, when the first body was discovered, washed ashore on the Thames. This would be one of the 6 victims of the Hammersmith nude killer. Nicknamed Jack the Stripper, as all 6 of the victims were petite, young prostitutes murdered and mutilated in a similar fashion to the infamous killer, except all were dumped naked. Their bodies were found in Kensington, Chiswick, Hammersmith, Brentford, and Ealing, and it is supposed that his kill count reaches above the confirmed number. The killer somehow evaded one of the largest manhunts in all of history, including that of Jack the Ripper. The closest the police ever got was when they discovered the exact area where the perp would store the bodies before he released them. But then, just like that, killing stopped. No trace left to follow. Like the OG Ripper case, there was a large range of suspects coming from a wide span of backgrounds, rich and poor, but still to this day, no one has any clue as to who was responsible. Oh, good God. Now, number 1, it's so gross, guys. First off, I want to say thank you to commenter Somwell C for pointing me in the direction of Albert Fish, but it feels weird to say thanks. Albert Fish claimed to have committed at least one murder in every state in the 1930s and 1934. Mrs. Budd's daughter, Grace, had been missing for quite a while when she received an anonymous letter that read, quote, "Dear Mrs. Budd, on Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street, brought you pot cheese, strawberries, we had lunch, Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her." Unquote. This should give you a very clear idea of the nature of his crimes, because what he said he wanted to do, he in fact did. Albert Fish had many names: the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, and the Brooklyn Vampire. Since Fish spent most of his childhood in an abusive orphanage, Fish grew up associating pleasure with pain. Not only would he commit horrendous sadistic atrocities onto others, he would also commit them onto himself. His addiction to pain knew no limits, but was able to hide his mental illness enough to father 6 children with his wife before she eventually left him when the illness became so apparent she couldn't ignore it. He would regularly mutilate himself with nails, needles, and even light his private areas on fire. This he did to his victims as well, and more. If you ever saw him in the street, you'd never think to look twice. He just looked like a regular guy, which is the most terrifying part. There are so many levels to his crimes, which makes Albert Fish oddly make the number 1 spot. And that is our list, folks, and trust me, there is way more where that came from. If you like this video, do the thing. You know what to do. Like it, subscribe, comment, do whatever. Did I miss anyone? You know I take requests. Anyways, guys, my name is Rachel Fisher. Thank you so much for watching and supporting our channel. And until next time, take care and stay scared.